Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8.6. Okay, I'm sort of redoing this episode here. Instead of trying to make another one and attach to what happened. I just had a crash with this current install. My install is a custom one. I made a mistake here in that I didn't. So if I change it now, it will crash the system. Unless I go back and purely start over. But if I keep going with these save games, it'll keep crashing. I forgot to move the images for these files over, so they're blank. Mostly the custom work is that I stayed with the these sorts of color images instead of having the black and white ones. Didn't want the vibrant colors of the different service branches for these other units. So, but it's mostly the standard type stuff all stuck into one folder and things, because I was having a ridiculously hard time trying to keep things working when with the checked boxes in the multiple folders. At least with my system, it just wasn't doable right now. So I've never trusted that it's always loading the mods in the proper order. I know Revolver Held has done a good job in giving the players, if you install his one in sort of it's the one like for TRE only has the one that I do only has Black Ice as a dependency. He's added the proper having it if you're doing them all together to have units of the Third Reich as a dependency to hopefully install it, for the computer to do it in order. I just don't trust it, and I have enough problems with it. So to building this for the game, for this long series, I just installed everything on top of each other and went in and hand tweaked some things to work out. But it's mostly what you would be getting if you installed our mods. So, like I said, I just had a crash, and it was on an autosave. That just, I don't think that's what caused it. What I think is I hadn't in a while removed any of the backlog of save games, because I notice if I get rid of the if I have too many save games, because that's all the saves right now, I just move them to another folder. So if I want to go back to something back in 36 for some reason and load it up, I can go back and do it. I'm not deleting them. I'm moving to another folder marked for this series that I can go back and do that if needed. But so is you keep this out there, and so once I had a bad save, I delete the bad one. Will have 0 file size. Delete that one. Delete the logs. That creates new logs every time it starts up. So deleted that, but got down to a minimal amount of saves, and then just did a test save, and it worked fine. So that's why I think I had the crashes. Just the more saves in it. This is, I think, the second or the third one I've had with this install that I think is related to having too many saved games in the save folder. I always cringe every time it's doing the auto save, just because it's going to mark it. Yeah, most 90% of the time it does it. But if I did, I don't think I would have had it if I had cleared out the backlog of saves for it. So I'll just replay it. No real big deal here. We want the railway level 3. Make sure we hit that. Yep, not the one above or below it. That would be enough to restart it this episode without this. And also, which I did last time, and I wanted to explain and show off, I want to build a couple of coastal submarines. Coastal submarines are really useful for this game. If we can get as much as, get some of these units into the Mediterranean before Germany goes to war, and while even Italy's at peace, I want to use them to raid some of the trade down here. Even after that point, still producing some, controlling things like the Baltic Sea against the Soviets. If the Soviet Union's trading through here, not that they will, because they'll probably end up trading out through here to the U.S. or wherever, or getting Lend-Lease that way, but to try to control some of the, interdict some of the convoys there. And even if, like, we move into Spain or whatever as an allied nation, or down in other places, coastal submarines are cheap, good, quick to build, and also, so they're useful on the map. They're useful in the war. But they're also, they build up your practicals. They're cheaper than, let's go back to here, we can see that it's 212 days, just under 5 IC, go 5.5 IC, and you're almost up to 300 days for that currently. So by having these here, no, we just want 2 of them, you can start building up the practicals, which makes these other submarines cheaper to produce. And I also want to, similarly, what I want to do is produce a bunch of these guys, the big long-range 4-engine transport. But they're 13 months, 28, almost 29 ICs. That's a lot. But now just about 12.5 ICs, just under 300 days, so still a long time, but we can start building up the practicals. So I want to start building up some of the strategic bombers. I don't use strategic bombers too well, and maybe partially, well, I can tell you why I don't, because I don't want to micromanage the bombing campaign of any of these countries. When it's somebody like Poland, I'm just going to go in and capture them, so I don't want to destroy or disrupt their any strategic bombing. I do because I want to capture all the ICs intact. Within France, well, we're gonna, you're gonna watch me, hopefully, because we're gonna start this war planning in 1940, take out Poland and rapidly shift to the Western Front and take out France. So again, I don't want to disrupt any of the French ICs. So I want to take as many as I can intact. Britain, I would be happy to strategically bomb it because I don't know when or if, and there's also some gameplay aspects that would be good to have Britain around for a while, as it was historically. So we may, when we get around to that, we'll see whether we invade or not. But I'd be happy to bomb them, but I don't want to micromanage the campaign because I'm micromanaging so much else going on in the war. So maybe we can try to set them up to, the least aggressive, most, oh, you get a little damage, we'll come back home, repair, once you're all repaired up, then go bomb again kind of settings. And that might be good, and I'd be happy to do some of that, but I really just don't want to micromanage it. But so I want to build up practicals there, so I want to get that going. I also want to flying boat. So let's just do 1 flying boat, and I want to do 2 naval bombers to get those practicals and such worked on, to start getting them building. So we want to do that. And of course, there we go, 0.2% better than IC efficiency for production and supply throughput, which is nice. Infantry guns. Infantry guns are cool, though that, quite honestly, really just more of a calling it something. Anti-tank weapons that really do sort of mean something because they're more hard to attack. It's just increased defensiveness. I don't know why support weapons are necessarily increased defensiveness of a unit. I don't get all of these various elements. That's why I really, really like Hearts of Iron 4 and the weapons production. And they have, in my opinion, better weapons effect. It means more to me. We can do artillery barrages. Germany used well, Italy did have some mountain guns that were sort of like infantry guns. Most Italian infantry divisions had mountain guns in them, because if you really look at Italy, it's up and down Italy, all of its borders, you know, with Germany, Austria, whatever you want to call it, even Yugoslavia borders, the French borders, are all mountainous. Even these regions here, and some of the coastal are fairly hilly. So the regular divisions, and partially the Italian mountain guns were cheaper to produce than full howitzers. So that was part of it, was a cost-cutting save, and the ammunition's cheaper. But so those sort of qualify as infantry guns, because they're really lightweight cannons. But Germany was the real main user of infantry guns in the war. Until about the midpoint, and they stopped producing most, or at least reduced the numbers of production of infantry guns down. Still produced the ammo for the guns they had, but mostly went over to producing mortars, like the Americans, like the British, and I think the Soviets as well. We would say that they were mostly doing mortars. So I don't know how tense units. There's another thing here, I guess. Artillery brigades. Okay. Soviets. I just don't know a lot about. Don't know how to pronounce his screen name, so I'm not even going to try. Uses alphabetical letters that I'm not familiar with. But I think he's Turkish, because I had his one thing translated and identified it as Turkish. Was asking me about some stuff from the Soviets, and I said I never really played the Soviets. Yeah, I've turned on a game and I was, you know, as the Soviet Union, but I've never really played either in Hearts of Iron 3 or 4. Really played a game as playing the Soviet Union. So and it's because I'm just, well, there's enough. I'm just not. I hate the Soviets. I also hate Nazis, as you know, but I'm fascinated by Nazis. I'm not fascinated by the Soviets in a similar sort of way. And not that I wouldn't play or couldn't play the Soviets. There's just always so much more going on, and so I just don't know, like on a battalion level, how much do standard Russian battalions have mortar teams? I don't know. I know later, you know, post-war, Cold War, they most assuredly did. I don't know if they did in World War II. Okay, well, whatever. The Finns. Okay, agricultural advance. Ooh, this is better than last time. We've got some blueprints. Okay, agricultural. Bench, which helps our manpower out considerably, of course. Okay, these we should be doing because they'll definitely help protect us from any air power. Ships are very valuable. So let's go with the heavy anti-air. And what did we get here? Gun ability on twin engine planes to level 1. Is that anything we were researching? No, I don't think we were. We're doing, I think, the positions, not the gun ability. So that's good. That's useful. Very much so. This is already in 39, probably tripped over by an event, so we didn't get a thing that it was completed. So I want to cancel that until we get to 39, and then we'll do that. And we'll use it for medium anti-aircraft guns. Alright. How are we doing for just 60? We need to get that up much higher. Sorry, no, I can't. Not until we get better production ability for coal. Alright, we have supplies. We're trying to get our money up too. Keep our money up. Okay, industrial production advanced. Very good. Gotta keep that one balanced, of course, with industrial efficiency. Let's see. Just checking some of these other naval techs. Don't want to fall behind too much, especially in the lighter and the submarine ones, but let's prove that. I sent those over here to pick up this group here, and we're going to rebase. Okay, you can have supplies. Looks like we got some more ICs. I want to check some of these. Well, that one definitely should have already. That one should have already had. How's Vienna doing? Okay, so they're maxed out, so we're going to put these to the top. And of course, once they get built, that'll mean more resources needed for coal and steel and that kind of thing, but oh well. Romania, yes, you may have supplies. Yeah. More plate thickness, okay, good. Let's see about converting that to light armor production. Or research. Okay. Yes, okay, supply organization has advanced. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. We'll do heavy tanks. We want Tigers someday. Okay, we can form another the horse vessel. Okay. So we're going to do that. Yay. And let's presuming it's coming in here. Okay. Move these down. Another thing I do really like about 4 is the naval and IC separated out from, and the military IC separated out from the civilian ones. I just wish they'd get some of the other things right, like getting supply back into the game and getting fuel back into the game as a produced item. Don't want them to come back to this sort of screwy fuel system that I still don't understand. And yeah, I've played this game a bunch and I still don't understand how I control producing a fuel. I mean, I don't know how I could, you know, yes, and if you want to, you can try to explain it to me. But I still don't understand a good logical way to increase it. And without necessarily increasing supply production or other stuff, so... I understand the people's confusion about some of this stuff. Well, let's do the other. And yes, we'll do this. Okay, Marshal Pétain, or veterans warned by Marshal Pétain, down in Marseille, I believe that was, at a big rally, basically that, hey, Germany's a danger, you should be prepared, kind of thing. So disrupts our relation with France and gives them some benefits. Our diplomatic services reports that Czechoslovakia, after they have received reports of some of our preparations for Fall-Grün, have begun a partial mobilization, 1-year reservists and members of the technical and special corps to protect municipal elections out of fear of possible incidents during the election. So Germany is threatening Yugoslavia here. I mean Czechoslovakia, not Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia. Battle of the century. Now earlier we saw Schmeling knocking out Joe Louis. Now Joe Louis knocks out Schmeling. They, of course, as I think I said earlier, become good friends, or fairly good friends, and including after the war. Both. Joe Louis serves in the U.S. Army, obviously in colored unit. Max Schmeling goes on, and I've just found a couple of new photographs of Schmeling being trained in the Paris. He goes into the Luftwaffe and becomes part of the paratroops. Schmeling does part of the combat jumps into Crete, so he was actually, not just in the Paris, but did combat jumps. So disrupts our relation there. Okay, air bases for southern Germany, yes please. And of course, remember to come down here, put them at the top, help our practicals in building factories. So that'll help out a little bit. And Turkey, we're at money for yeah, since it's Turkey. Okay, so we've moved from small news and politics to just standard. So now we have territorial pride up by 3%, national unity up by 0.1%, so not very much obviously, and ruling party support up by 6%. Now that's a big jump. That's a very useful jump. Okay, support weapons. Yeah, I can sort of kind of see. But you see, support weapons can be sort of used in a defensive measure, or you can use them aggressively. So, whatever. Just our defensive ability with our weapons have gone up. And the Hai is launched. Okay, and we need to readjust this. We need to get back up to 5,000 plus, so rare materials. Okay, South Africa, we'll buy from you, and let's see, what's technology we need to... We've expanded our army a bit, so that we'll get back up there. But this is where we should be now that we got all 4 of those. Let's upgrade here. This actually does the most of the field upgrade. These do upgrade some units, where some of these, but this is the big payoff. Yeah, we'll get to the tree in a bit. We give them energy for money. We're still not producing enough energy for ourselves to get up to where we need to go to. So, okay. Manchurian Aviation Company. Manchurian Aviation Company would like to set up a long-distance route between Sinkin, is the H pronounced? I don't know. In Berlin. They would also like to produce some, or purchase some Junkers Ju-86Z1 transports. That's these guys here. This would improve our relations with both Manchuria and Japan. And they would get some stuff. This is some of the stuff I looked into. And this is actually, they did a postage stamp. If you notice the 86 there, commemorating buying the aircrafts. I believe that it's some sort of stamp. I think it's a postage stamp, but it could be something else. Just a commemorate, meaning I don't know if this is actually, pay for postage, or they just stick it on for airmail or something. I don't know. But it commemorates the buying of these aircraft. This is sort of the early start of the Manchurian Air Force. It started out as a sort of a government transportation airlines, both cargo and passenger, but was also intended as a military support. So it would do civil aviation, but be capable of got a lot of stuff. Okay, well. Just trying to figure out who is. Is that the communists there? Yeah, I guess so. Communists have a rebellion up there. Okay, that's probably it. Okay, just didn't understand that first. And so it was a logistic, started out, as I say, as a logistic support for Manchurian and/or Japanese air operations. We will lose supplies, which basically simulates the production of the aircraft, gain some money for selling them, and improve our relations, which is what's important. Manchuria will get some transports. I don't think the AI will use them well, but at least they'll have them. So yes, obviously if that was the humans were playing there, that would be great. West Wall Lime's program, and you can see what the bunkers sort of look like. This is sort of a huge bunker with a separate position there. This is, basically a fighting position, where this is those are bunk bed positions. You can see where they enter and the various protection, and this is sort of I think the front towards the enemy up here, but this is a machine gun position covering the doors if they come around and whatnot. So pretty big. And this is another one here. Again, this would be towards the enemy as they place it. This is the entrance. Not exactly sure what that is, but this is the entrance to the bunker, covered by another machine gun position. Obviously there's living quarters in here, but notice, so if you have the enemy that blows up into, shoots destructive rounds in it and blows into the bunker here, with the doors shut or whatever, will help contain the blast in here while this bunker is still fighting, while the support elements are still here. So they're not simply taken by, a few direct hits. So they're well done. So this is our first real level of, that will remove one effect but then give another effect that has different negatives costs for building all these. So yes, we want to do that. And air bases for Austria, post mark. Yes, we want to do that. Yes, please. Now, come here. So these are just these little pillboxes, not the big fortresses, so they don't show up on the map, but as an icon. But now we have some level of defensive positions on our west front with France, and we're building up there for greater stuff. And this is also important. Realize that this is June 38, and that's roughly the time that a lot of these were being built. Obviously they weren't built all on one day. Took a while and worked it, but I tried to simulate a lot of this stuff. They had to get this, and this is what is well, multiple things, but one of the really big things that's keeping Germany from demanding the Sudetenland is they need to build defensive levels on the West Front. So if you go to war with France, it's not just infantry divisions out in the open. They've got to build it. No, they're also building the Dragon's Teeth, anti-tank, things, and all kinds of other defensive elements too that they were building into this. So without that defending your West Front, the Germans weren't in a position to demand things with Czechoslovakia. So this is, why I'm fascinated by these elements, that it isn't just Germany, Hitler, whatever, demanding Czechoslovakia or the Sudetenland at a particular time, and why it happens then, because that's when he woke up out of bed and demanded it. They had to lay a lot of the groundwork into trying to show to the world that, one, the Germans in that region, let's do the light infantry, in that region wanted to be part of Germany and tried to show to the world, rightly or wrongly, I think mostly wrongly, that the Czechoslovakian central government were oppressing the Germans, even, and all this stuff. So they had to do all of that going on, but they also couldn't push too fast. Where you're looking with Austria, it was mainly the conflict with Italy. France wasn't making any sort of noises like, oh, we're going to do something if you get in Austria, and any sort of war was thought by the Germans at least to be a minor thing, and that the Austrian army would just not want to fight the German army. Not that they couldn't win or they weren't brave enough. It's just we're all comrades, we're all Germans together. They would just sort of, en masse want to switch sides. So even if there was fighting, it would be half-hearted. That's what they were thinking. So that's why at least some elements, they weren't really worried about the French reaction over Austria, but they're worried about the French reaction over Czechoslovakia. So this is some of the timing comes into, is completing enough of the West Wall program to secure the border. So if there's fighting, or it would look to the French, the idea that, hey, this would be a hard fight to fight through the defenses, and so not to go to war with Czechoslovakia, or another additional deterrent. And obviously there's also, even if it wouldn't end up being a political deterrent, it would be a just the idea that if there is a war, it would slow up any French attack to better shift armed forces against it. So even if it is equally likely to go to war, you have the defenses there to give you the time. Okay, faithful forever. Our diplomatic service reports. This is published by many newspapers. A call to being faithful for Czechoslovakia. I think it's directed at all Czechs to one degree or another, but and all Czechoslovakians, let's just say, because the Slovakians weren't terribly interested in fighting over the Sudetenland. They were actually more worried about Hungarian encroachments. There was out here, this part of, because I've looked into this even more, these Czechs wanted to become part of the Ukraine. But at least they wanted, in realistic terms, during this time period, they were looking for a local autonomy. Because obviously the Soviet Union was occupying greater Ukraine. These were Ukrainian ethnic groups. I don't know between the Polish nationals here how much of them were ethnically Ukrainian, meaning speaking Ukraine, and don't again know how much in this part, Romania, if any, large Ukrainian groups, but there was a significant, and actually in this region, it was sort of a majority of people were of ethnic Ukrainian, so they were sort of pushing for autonomy. The Slovaks maybe mostly were pushing for autonomy within Czechoslovakia, but eventually some elements were looking for independence. We earlier talked about the Poles here were looking to join up with Poland, and the Germans, obviously, the big Sudeten. So you got all these different forces in Czechoslovakia that really, is there really a national identity of Czechoslovakia? And obviously, and as we look now, there isn't. There just isn't. There is a Czech identity, there's a Slovak identity, and there was a German identity. Now all the Germans, more or less, after in the World War II, were all kicked out just because they didn't play nice. And obviously some of this territory here never goes back to Czechoslovakia. I don't know if this is today Poland or Czechoslovakia, but they never fully got their terrain back, all their territory back. And it was again an artificial state propped up by the Soviets. As soon as the Soviets went away, they split up. So it was an artificial state, but they're trying to promote a national unity because they're realizing there's greater and greater German pressure. Okay, 5 mark. This has a multiple effects, and I've talked about some of this in earlier episodes. This was the 5 mark plan to get everybody to have the Volkswagen. You can have the Volkswagen theoretically without the 5 mark plan in both a, hey, I want to purchase one now, I have the money, once they produced a few, on the one hand, and on the other hand, from the government idea of setting up this government company to produce the cars, you didn't have to sell it this way, but it was a way to do multiple things. One, to help fund the factory to produce the Volkswagen directly. Two, because they have the money to fund the Volkswagen factory, because the German government could just print more money. And they don't necessarily print any more money. I hope most of you know that. They just simply add it to the books, and it works through the system. But if you dump in too much money, you get inflation, then you get hyperinflation, you get super hyperinflation, whatever. So that becomes a bad thing. So they don't want to just dump in too much money, but obviously they're building things like armaments. Well, you can, obviously, in Germany did sell a few tanks and whatnot and aircraft to other countries. We just saw the Ju-86 to Manchuria. So obviously they are selling some military weapons, but a lot of military weapons aren't being sold. So they're producing something that doesn't then have an income. So the idea is whether it's the the person who's mining the iron, the person who's manufacturing the steel, or the person who's making the components for the weapons, or who's assembling the weapons. All these people are making money, but all of the stuff that they're working on, at least that goes into weapons, is not then something that they can go out and buy. So you get money, but then what do you do with it? Well, so part of the fear of this sort of situation is that you have these people with money burning their holes in their pockets. They want to buy something, but they're not building enough toasters, shall we say. It's a convenient thing. So whatever it is, consumer goods, and consumer goods that you need to import, whether import a resource to make them or just foreign manufactured consumer goods, are harmful to Germany's economy right now. So this is part of the thing, is to get all these people that are now having good salaries making weapons, or like I say, steel that goes into weapons or something, or some other parts of it. And could be people working to build new housing communities for the German population. Yes, you build the housing community. Yes, you could rent or buy or whatever. I don't know all the different schemes there. Better housing for yourself, but it's partially people get all this money. Partially this is to draw the money back out of the economy. So yes, it is going to pay for building the factory, but it's also a way to, instead of going and getting a bank loan, if you will, the government could fund the loan themselves, so you don't have to go to the bank. Give the money up front to know that, once we get the Volkswagens in mass production, they will have a bunch of income. So then, hey, we'll be, have enough money for this thing. Part of it is to get the money now, but get the money out of the economy. That's part of the element. Part of the element that's going on is sort of a double perception, I would say. One is the perception is, hey, my life is going to get better. I'm going to get a car. Can't afford a car because cars are too expensive. And I couldn't afford a car at all before, but even this new Volkswagen is too expensive. But I can start paying for it now and eventually get the car. I think, I'm not sure, in 4 years you'll be the owner of the car. So it'd take 4 years, but I think you could skip weeks, but it just would delay when you're getting the car. So I don't think it, like, you get halfway through 2 years into it and then you go, oh, well, I can't make payments for 6 months or something. I lost the car. I just think it would delay. Once you start making payments again, you start getting the car again. So you're looking ahead that the government, the National Socialists, are going to provide a situation that you're going to be able to afford a car someday. So you are being happy that your life you believe is going to get better on the one hand, and on the other hand you're committing yourself to the National Socialist and their system by buying into it, by doing the 5 mark plan, meaning there was no way to back out of it. To my understanding, they were non-transferable, so you couldn't pay for half of it and then sell it to your buddy to keep making payments on it. It was down to you as an individual, so you wouldn't want to, say, get 2 years into it and then go, well, I'm going to vote for the party that's going to cancel the 5 mark plan. So you're buying into the system. So it's get the money to fund the building of the factory. It's to pull the money out of the economy. It's to make people happy that their lives are going to get better someday. And it's to commit these people to support the system. Now, my understanding is it would never have worked. And I'm not sure entirely on the details, but basically I don't think they could have produced enough cars to fulfill the need for the 5 mark plan. Not that the 5 mark plan wouldn't have provided Germany with the company with enough money that meet the cost of the car. It was more that they were doing so many of these 5 mark plans that there was no way that they would have enough cars available for the people, especially if they all hit at the same time, and do that. So it wouldn't have worked. It was obviously started around this time, and in 38 they're at war by 39, and basically the whole plan is put on hold. My understanding again is with the sort of the thing, they stopped selling the 5 mark tickets, but you still owned your percentage payment up to that. Even once peacetime or whatever started, they would allow you to start making payments again for the 5 mark plan, but it wouldn't have worked. But so this actually, you don't lose national unity here really, but we also lose dissent too. So as you can see, we just lost dissent. Okay, yes, we'll take the big gun. So that's sort of the 5 mark plan. We need, we need the energy. So we get this up. Okay, and this is just more going on, showing the essay with the Ritter essay, which to me was something that until I was really looking at it, I did not realize how much the essay really got into mounted units. I really don't think there was much at all mounted SA units prior to the Nazis coming to power, because it was really very much of a street combat focus for the SA. So they're switching over, doing this stuff in the countryside and for the military training. So I just find it fascinating to see how much. And this is the reason. One of the main reasons I find it fascinating is that this isn't talked about in any of the books that I've read, and it's just really coming off to various posters, photographs, and other this is an essay plaque for some sort of event dealing with horses. This was a day out for the group Mitte here or whatever, a horse sports day, and then a toy soldier that's a SA toy soldier that was made during this time. So these just aren't talked about in any of the books that I've read on the National Socialist regime, but this is a big activity going on around Germany that just isn't reported. That's what fascinates me by it so much, not that it's in and of itself. Okay. This is the, again, another event dealing with the Tehran hospital, obviously, but the company there, Philip Holzman, I'm going to try to pronounce that correctly. This was a university hospital in Tehran. Earlier they built the basic Tehran train station, Iran wanted a modern hospital that was also a training hospital to train Iranian doctors. And you can see the plans for a major building there, a couple other satellite buildings, and you can read about it in more detail. Ernest Kopp was the German architect. That's the best period or before, though that's, I think, a World War I era photo of him. I think maybe I found, 1950s or 60s photo of him, much older. 500 bed hospital. There is going to be a lot of local labor, local resources, but it will cost us this, but it improve our relations with Iran by 5 or no need. We want to improve our relations with Iran. So this is part of Germany's outreach to the Muslim world, and particularly, of course, to Iran, trying to modernize the Iranian society. Okay, submarine classes. Advanced, great. So that's just the standard submarine classes. Advanced, very good. No immediate effect for ourselves. We don't have any of those in production right now. I'm going to do a few more coastal subs before I... Let's... Paratrooper activation, that's what would be a good one to do. Before I start on production of standard submarines. I want the money, but I need the energy built up. Okay, this is another sort of later addition to Tanganyika. Different spelling there, Tanganyika with a J, but that's the PD Tanganyika, the ship, which I found, and that's actually some sort of device from it, that, not that or that, which may be a period or a house flag, don't know, that's obviously the German flag there, but spells out Tanganyika in flag. Somehow that was on the ship, and it's just a few inches long, it isn't huge. Some sort of, I don't know, just some sort of item that's attached to the ship, could be onto chairs or doors, or I don't know, but a metal thing that was that, and I found that very interesting and found the photo of it. It was purchased in 1936 from the Deutsches Ost Africa line. So going from private hands to government ownership. We can send it on a KDF cruise around Africa. We could have on board some of the right people to better improve our relations and gather information in that part of the world, should we send a ship. To the best of my knowledge, they didn't specifically do this. This was a mixed passenger and cargo type ship that was originally, of course, set up to go to Africa and transport people and cargo back and forth between them. But we can send it on a goodwill mission / spy mission. That's sort of the right people element there. Spy mission, improve our relations with both Portugal and South Africa, and disrupt and make Britain a little mad at us for doing that, or we can decide not to. We're going to do it though. Where it really helps us a bit is with Portugal, but so we send it around Africa as a cruise. I guess the distinction of a cruise versus a ship transport thing, like an ocean liner or whatever, that will take people, say, from Germany to America and leave those people there, and then maybe presumably pick up people in America, a different set of people, and take them back to Germany. Where a cruise is you start with all the people that come on board, and they go around to other places, but all those people all get off back where they started from. So I guess what's the difference between a cruise and that. Okay, the Marine SA. We've looked a little before at some of the other elements of the Marine SA. This is one of their vessels. This is nowhere near the size of the Horst Wessel or other similar larger training vessels. This is a smaller. You can sort of see the person there. It is a three-master. It is fairly big, but this is it's not. It's a very small ship, a large yacht type thing. The SA did have a few of those around as training vessels, tall ships to better train it here. And let's see here. This is this is on the lake somewhere inside of, or a river, maybe even on the inside of Germany here. And it's sort of hard to see, and it's sort of up in there. You can see it in the photograph better. But it's a mock-up of a ship with the tall mast, so that you could practice raising and lowering sails and that kind of thing, but you don't go anywhere. It's, like I say, it's really hard to say, but it's this whole compound here for Marine SA training that is inland based, but to train up sailors so we can keep training or not. So basically throwing some supplies for a modest increase in various type stuff, surface vessels mainly. So yes, we're going to do that. And yes, a lot of those SA men eventually go into the Navy. A lot of them obviously do go into subservice, because that's where a lot of the needs were put forward. Okay, radar has advanced. Wonderful. Come over here. We'll stop that for the moment. We'll get to those in 39. We need to do that now. And light bomber prototypes have advanced. Good. And that's grayed out. But with having that happen, we now can do here and here. So you can see between the SA, the Ritter SA, the SA Ritters, or whatever how you want to say that, and the SA Marine is going on. There's just, through all elements of the society, this move towards the war. Also, you have things like the Hitler Youth doing military training. It's just everywhere and pervasive is this militarization of society within Germany, even while we're looking at KDF cruises, we're looking at five mark plans for the cars, and there's a pot. Daimoen is the Seagull is the magazine here. It's a small town right about here. We'll see. It's just out on the. It's in the Free City of Danzig territory, but it's just outside on the edge of Danzig, sort of that. It's I found the magazine here and improved the thing over it. So we're going to do this, which costs us a little money. They had a casino. Obviously, you see this is the casino with a reflection in the water in front of it, sort of a lake there. The Nazi flags, like I've said before, Danzig is a 80-90%, somewhere in that range, ethnically German. It is highly Nazified. The people are very supportive of the Nazis in that they want to join the German Reich, and they do the swastika flag. So even though it is still a mandated, League of Nations mandated free city, it is the main port for Poland for economic purposes. They build up here in Gdynia a naval port for the Polish Navy, and that's set up there, but this is set up commercial, doing most of the supplies. So it is Poland's port to the world for most commerce, but it's very much a German city-state, if you will. And so casinos, nightlife, we'll do more info. this is part of their advertising campaign, posters around trying to get people from Poland, from the Baltic states, from Germany, from Scandinavia to come to this resort town. It's a National Socialist playground. There's Goebbels. I thought it was interesting that they had the American flag here. That's obviously the German flag. That's the German DA or DDAC or something, the Automobile Club, which sort of does get rolled as part of the NSKK, but it's sort of the Automobile Club support element of it. So that's going on. And then the American flag. I don't know if that was a special occasion, that they were hosting some American visitor or what. But I just thought that was interesting. And there's the Travel Association, which is that central flag there. Represents. It's a... I always think that all these people, and I guess modern yoga and modern spin classes are sort of similar, that people all line up doing the same thing, but I always find that sort of funny. But it's a health spa, mud bath treatments, that kind of thing going on there. And it's just generally beach holiday fun, obviously in the summertime, but set up as a place for, like, showed people from going all over, but a lot of them from Germany go there as another place to go there, and it's a little bit more of a free spirit, town than some of the National Socialists was. Obviously, I don't know of official sanctioned casinos open to, roulette and all those type of casino games in Germany at this time. So this is sort of somewhat unique in that way, and a sort of a Monte Carlo of the North for people to come up and want to gamble. So it's a little bit more of a freer, even though there is the Nazi element there, but they're not quite as Nazified, meaning a lot of that, like I was saying, is it's more support in joining Germany than it is actual belief in National Socialism. I do believe that. So it was a lot of holiday support, fun things, but unlike the big DAF, I forget, city that we were looking at here. Boy, I'm forgetting the name, blanking on it. Earlier in the event that they're building now, the big, huge sort of mega hotel that they were doing for a holiday thing. This is actually in service now, where that's building for the future. And there were other holiday towns along the Baltic at the time, but this is just another sort of high profile one. So with that sort of escape valve, where people lose a little bit of dissent, and we are going to end the episode at a nice high point, as a holiday resort for everybody to come and have there. So thanks so much for just watching, and of course thanks for liking the video. It does help, and of course please post comments, suggestions, ideas. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.